Imagine waking up to the sound of heavy breathing just beyond your cave entrance. You stand still. It's not the wind. It's not another human being. Something enormous is out there. Something with an appetite. Welcome to the Paleolithic Age, the first survival game. Before we enter this prehistoric hell, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy wild history, heroic survival tales, and the hard facts about our forefathers. Okay, let's begin. Back then, the Earth wasn't just wild, it was savage. Humans weren't kings of the food chain, they were snack-sized. Everything around them was bigger, stronger, and faster. There was no safety net, just instinct, stone tools, and each other. Let's discuss one of the most frightening creatures of the day, the saber-toothed cat. It wasn't merely a large feline, it was a 600-pound muscle truck with teeth the length of your hand. A single bite could kill it. These cats were ambush predators. They did not roar and pursue like lions do today. No, they waited, in silence, and then, bam. One leap, and it was finished. Cavemen were smart enough to roam too far alone. They weren't given a choice but to work in one unit. Spotters scanned the tree lines. Hunters didn't stray too far, and if one member made a mistake, they could give the predator a direct path to the tribe. Then arrived the cave bear. Imagine a grizzly in today's world, but bigger by half. They stood 10 feet tall and weighed over 1,000 kilos. And here's the bad news. They loved caves. Yes, the same caves that started being inhabited by humans. Picture sneaking into a dark cave thinking it's the ideal den and hearing a growl in the darkness. Most of these early humans didn't return. So, how did they manage? Fire. It was not only for heating or cooking, it was a weapon. Cavemen soon realized that most predators were afraid of fire, so they left it lit in front of their camps, particularly in the evenings. Torches of flame were their ultimate defense. Not ideal, but far better than meeting a bear with a rock. So, how did they survive? Fire. Not only was it for warmth or cooking, it was a weapon. Cavemen soon discovered that most predators were afraid of fire, so they left it lit in front of their camps, particularly in the evenings. Torches of flame were their ultimate defense. Not ideal, but better than meeting a bear with a rock. And then there were the dire wolves. These weren't your Game of Thrones fantasy dreams come true. These were genuine. Larger, more muscular, and belligerent than the wolves today. They hunted packs, and when a dozen of them rode into town yelping into the night, fire alone wasn't sufficient. This is where human ingenuity intervened. They fashioned perimeter traps, pits in the ground, sharpened stakes concealed in tall grass. They discovered how to channel animals into killing areas through the terrain. They began constructing elevated vantage points, early warning systems. In a world replete with death, intelligence was life. Now imagine this, you're hiking with your clan, gathering berries and firewood, when you hear something down to the ground, scratching. Out of the bushes comes a woolly rhinoceros. It's the size of a car, but it's covered in thick hair, with a horn as long as your arm. And it's not happy to see you. These animals weren't predators, but they were territorial and volatile. Cavemen didn't even attempt to fight one unless they absolutely had to. They learned instead to interpret animal behavior. If the rhino snorted and stomped the ground, they retreated, slowly, cautiously. They learned to finish a fight if they couldn't avoid it. Sometimes, however, escape wasn't possible, such as when they encountered the short-faced bear, perhaps the most fearsome predator of the Ice Age. This beast was over 12 feet tall when walking upright, ran 40 miles per hour, and possessed a jaw capable of breaking bones. It could run you down in open land, outrun you, outpower you, outlast you, and you couldn't escape up a tree. It could too. So how did humans deal with this? They steered clear of open fields. They traveled in parties. They slept in rotations. They ceased to be aimless wanderers and became strategic nomads, selecting campsites according to natural boundaries and exit strategies. Others even speculate that they selected caves not only for heat, but because they had one entrance and one exit, safer to defend. But predators were not the only danger. At other times, the problem was that humans were the hunters, and they chose the wrong victim. Woolly mammoths, for instance, were a buffet. Loads of meat, coats to keep warm, bones to craft tools.
A mammoth was an overland survival kit, but acquiring it cost outrageous risk. These weren't friendly giants. One misstep and the entire hunting party could be stomped or gored. So what did cavemen do? They strategized for days. They observed the herds, waited for one to wander, constructed concealed traps, sharpened spears. It required timing, patience, and courage. And even when they won, it was risky. A dying mammoth is an enraged mammoth. It wasn't hunting, it was war. Let's not overlook giant ground sloths. Sounds innocuous, don't it? Think again. These beasts were 20 feet long, over 4 tons, and had huge claws. They weren't predators, but they could kill. If alarmed, they'd lash those claws with enough impact to crack bones. Humans learned to never pin one against a wall, never attack from the rear, and never think slow is safe. Here's what all of this is saying to us. Cavemen weren't merely survivors, they were tacticians. They watched, they adjusted, they learned from one another, and steadily, they transitioned from prey to the most deadly creature of all. And that's only part 1. Next time on How the World Really Works, we'll explore how early humans began to turn the tables, not only surviving, but ruling over the wild. How they developed weapon technology, came up with hunting strategies that could kill beasts, and became the top predators of their day. Don't miss it. And if you haven't already, subscribe, ring that bell. Let's begin with weapons. Initially, they were simple, sharp rocks, wooden spears. But then the atlatl arrived, a spear thrower that propelled projectiles farther and faster. Suddenly, humans did not need to advance any closer. They could now kill from afar. This changed everything. They also came up with stone-tipped spears, which proved fatal for big, thick-skinned animals like mammoths and rhinos. Gradually, they fashioned these tools more finely: flint knives, scrapers, axe heads. And these tools weren't only meant for hunting, they were meant for butchering, digging, and constructing. Cavemen also invented team hunting techniques. Imagine a pack of hunters herding a huge bison in circles around a cliff. One misstep, and the beast tumbles. The tribe feasts for days. This wasn't chance. It was planning. It was communication. It was using the environment itself as a weapon. And not just the men. New studies demonstrate women joined the hunts, pursued game, and wielded weapons too. This was a fight to survive, everyone pitching in. Domestication followed, still not of animals, but of fire, land, and information. Survival methods were shared among tribes. They learned from one another, where threats lurked, how to interpret tracks, how to spot danger signals in the wild. They started staking out land, not with flags, but with fire pits, tools, cave paintings. That's not just passing through anymore, they were staking out space. That's what predators didn't anticipate. And the twist? The most deadly animal of all became us. Because eventually the cave bear was gone, the saber-toothed cats were gone, the giant sloths, the short-faced bears, the dire wolves, extinct. Some claim it was climate change, others claim it was humans. The reality? Likely both. But one thing's for sure, humans ceased running. They began dominating. Next time you watch a documentary depicting cavemen as stupid, filthy, and cowering, remember this: they were survivors, warriors, engineers, and strategists. They didn't merely adapt to nature, they began to rewrite the rules. And that's how they transitioned from the hunted to the hunters. If you reach this far, you're officially part of the tribe. Hit like if you appreciate the hustle of our early ancestors. Comment below, who's the prehistoric creature you think you could battle? And don't forget to subscribe, because we've got more raw, untamed, and mind-blowing human history on the way. From stone to strategy, this is just the start. Stay curious, stay fierce, see you in the next one.